it's Lindsay. Welcome back to The Wandering Reader. Today I'm going to be doing part 2 of my bookshelf tour. So I put part 1 up on my channel on Monday, and if you haven't yet watched that, I will link that for you here, so you can go away and watch that bit first before you come back and watch part 2. So part 2 is going to cover the remaining 3 shelves in my reading room. So let's just jump in to part 2 of the bookshelf tour. Okay, so we're going to start part 2 of the bookshelf tour off with the little thin bookcase that I've got in the middle of my 2 bigger ones in the reading room. I don't put a lot of books on this one. They're basically just display shelves for me. So I'm just going to quickly run through what's on these. So we've got Jane Campbell's Franklin's Flying Bookshop up on the first shelf. This is a really clever and really beautifully illustrated children's book that just, yeah, talks about the power of reading basically. I did do a review on this which I'll link for you if you haven't seen that, and I'll talk about why I think reading's powerful. So yeah, then this shelf here is like my Harry Potter theme shelf, so I've got a few Funko Pops on there which I really love. The McGonagall one of my tutor group bought that for me at the end of last academic year, because I dressed up as McGonagall for World Book Day, so that was really sweet of her. So that takes pride of place in the middle. I think McGonagall is one of my favourite characters in the books. And then this behind it is a special limited edition version of the Tales of Beedle of the Bard. I'm not going to get it out. Basically, when you open this up, there's a drawstring bag that's got a special copy of the book in it, and it's, yeah, like I said, limited edition and things like that. So yeah, that's it. There's a little stamp set of some Harry Potter bits and pieces there as well. Then this shelf, we've got our initial lights on here. I bought them from a shop in Westfield ages ago, I can't remember when. This is a mug that my husband was bought, Harry Potter mug. I solemnly swear I'm up to no good. It's one of those ones where you put hot water in it and it turns to something else, which is really clever. I've got a few bookmarks in it. And then again, in that box that my mum gave me, I found this photo book of Australia that I really liked, so I put that in there. And there's a special illustrated collector's edition of the Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown, so I really like displaying those. This shelf here, we've got some Game of Thrones Funko Pops and a couple of really nice Shakespeare books. One on quotations and the other one on some stuff to do with love in William Shakespeare's plays and poems. So again, really like those. This shelf here is where I keep all of my bookmarks in my butterbeer mug that Stefan brought me back from the studio tour in London, and then a couple of my pots and mugs that have got my TBR stuff in them. So there's my Taurus mug there that I got for my birthday that I really love, so that's that one. And then this last shelf has a few more Harry Potter bits and pieces in it, some bookmarks that we don't really want to use as bookmarks. I don't really like those style of bookmarks, so that's why the Ravenclaw one, like you can see, has been taken out, because Stefan tried using it and didn't like it. It kind of marks the pages, you know, and we're the type of people who don't fold pages in books and things, so we like to keep them pristine. So yeah, that's really irritating, so we don't use those, so we just display them. And then this little book here, this is a collection of poems that's and there's a poem in there written by one of our nephews, and it's like something that they do in the first year of primary school in some of the primary schools in our local area, and they basically, it's like this poem that they have to finish basically. It's really cute, so yeah, that's something that we display because we treasure it. So moving on to the 4th bookcase in here, of the first shelf, so a few bits on here. So I read Big Little Lies last year, really loved it. It's a great thriller, I would definitely recommend that one. And I also read over the summer The Husband's Secret, and I really enjoyed that one as well. I've got all 4 of Kate Morton's books here. I'm missing one of them. I've only read The Lake House, but I quite enjoyed The Lake House when I read it last year, so I'm definitely interested in reading some more of her stuff. We've got some Jojo Moyes books. This is the Me Before You trilogy. I haven't got around to reading Still Me yet, but I really loved Me Before You, and I quite liked After You as well. So yeah, there's that one. Next shelf down. What have I got on here? A lot of books on here that I haven't yet read. Some Claire North, some Louise O'Neill. I'm really looking forward to reading The Lido by Libby Page. This is Wonder by R.J. Palacio, which I'm sure you'll recognise. The film obviously came out recently. This is a brilliant middle grade novel about a boy who has a facial disfigurement and he goes to school for the first time, and it's just wonderfully written. Really good, that one. A couple of B.A. Paris's books. I read The Breakdown last year, really loved it, great thriller. Haven't read Bring Me Back, which is her latest one, and I've heard mixed things about it, which is a bit of a shame, but there we go. And then we've got the Anna and the French Kiss trilogy. So obviously it starts with Anna and the French Kiss. It's a good YA contemporary romance trilogy, so if you're looking for something light and fluffy, but also like travel orientated, then I'll definitely recommend those. Next shelf down, I recently got rid of all of my Jodi Picoult books except for, I couldn't get my words out then, one, Small Great Things. This is one of her newest books, if not the newest book that she's got out, and I really liked this sort of rose gold edition, so I basically kept it because it was new and it was a nice cover, so I haven't read it yet, but there we go. There's also here the special Waterstones edition of The Essex Serpent by Sarah Perry. It's a really beautiful book. I've still yet to read it. Again, bit of a shame, but there we go. What else have we got here? We've obviously got The Book of Dust and Philip Pullman's Grim Tales, which are his sort of fairy tales, like fairy tale retellings, I think. So I bought it because I thought it was a beautiful book, and that was a good 6 years ago now, and I still haven't read it. We've got the first 3 books in the, is it called the Seven Sisters trilogy? I think it's called that. I read the first book last year and really quite liked it. Then we've got Eleanor and Park, which of course I read in April with Kerry Ann. Really enjoyed it. And this little gap that I've got on the shelf here is for Fangirl, but again that's on a separate TBR, so that's somewhere else. And then we've got The Start. We've obviously got Arundhati Roy's books. I mentioned The God of Small Things earlier. I haven't read her newest one. At the start of Carlos Ruiz Zafón's books, I absolutely loved, I nearly dropped it then. I absolutely loved The Shadow of the Wind when I first read it. Again, I would love to reread it. My husband reread it over the summer and loved it even more the second time than he did the first time. There's a 4th book coming out in this series this year, and I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but yeah, I think the trilogy gets more surreal as you go along, but I haven't read the 3rd one and I would like to reread them basically. On to the next shelf, we've got a continuation of Carlos Ruiz Zafón's books here. This is another one of my favourites. We Need to Talk About Kevin by Lionel Shriver. I've mentioned this a couple of times on my channel. Really good psychological, it's not a thriller, or is it a thriller? I don't know. Anyway, it was very good. Really enjoyed that one. Again, it's quite dark, but like I said, that's a bit of a theme. What else have we got? All of them, or quite a lot of V.E. Schwab's books. My husband has read all of these and enjoyed all of them. We've got a copy of Lincoln in the Bardo by George Saunders, which won the Man Booker last year, and it was my favourite out of the shortlist, so yeah, would really recommend reading that. It's unique in its style, but I really liked the way that he played around with how to tell a story. And then of course we've got all of Rita Sepetys' books. I love her, she is great. If you like historical fiction, yeah, just you need to read her books. They're just so good. Okay, this is the next shelf down. So I've got some Karen Slaughter books in here, none of which I've read yet. This is a good one, Autumn by Ali Smith. I was really hesitant about reading her just because I'd heard that she's quite experimental, and also some of her covers just really didn't appeal to me at all, but I really appreciated her style of writing in here, and I would definitely recommend that one. I'm looking forward to reading some of her other stuff. Another favourite of mine that you've heard me talk about recently is The Light Between Oceans, about a couple who live on an island and look after a lighthouse, and then this baby washes up on the shore, and it's about what they decide to do with this baby. Very, very good. Great characters. Good book if you want a good cry. This is one of my favourite books of all time, and one again that I'd like to reread. And I've just recently got myself a copy of this, The Help by Catherine Stockett. This basically follows, it's set in the south of America in the 1960s, and it follows a white woman who writes about the lives of black women who are the help, and it's about the relationships that form between them, and obviously it gives you an insight into what life was like for them at that particular time. Brilliant book, really love it. I've got a couple of Vikas Swarup books. I've read Slumdog Millionaire, really liked it. I mean, the film is absolutely excellent, but the book is very good as well, so definitely recommend that one. Then we've got the very bottom shelf of this bookcase. For you to mention, obviously I talked quite a lot about The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas on my channel before. This is the US hardback edition that I bought when I was in New York last year. Love it. I saw the trailer for the movie and cried. It's just, yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I cannot wait for the film to come out. So yeah, if you haven't read that yet, what are you doing? We've got the Girl in 6E trilogy that I finished off at the beginning of this year. That's really good, sort of like a thriller trilogy, but obviously she, the main character, webcams, so it's got some erotic elements to it as well. A few Rose Tremaine books, haven't read anything by her so far. We've got all of Liz Trunell books. The only one I've read is The Poppy Factory, which is set in, is it World War I or World War II? World War I, there we go. Always get that confused, and I don't want to say the wrong thing. This is basically told from a woman called Rosie's perspective, whose husband has gone off and served in France as a soldier. And he comes back with a life-changing injury, and it's about how they navigate life basically together, told from her perspective, which I really liked, because obviously, well, I certainly haven't read an awful lot of stuff that's from a woman's perspective, like, sort of like back home in Britain. Yeah, that was really good. So I want to dive into the other Liz Trunell books, but I haven't got around to them yet. She is a local author to me. She lives either in Colchester or in Sudbury. I can't remember which one it is. But yeah, so the fact that she's a local author as well means that I should really get around to some of her books, some more of her books. I've got all of 3 of Ruth Ware's books. I've read the first 2, In the Dark Woods and The Woman in Cabin 10. They were alright, they were like 3-star reads for me. I'll tell you what I do love though is The Colour Purple by Alice Walker. I read this last year during the Bookshebathon and couldn't believe how long it had taken me to get around to it. Absolutely fantastic book, and you all need to read it if you haven't done already. It's just absolutely fabulous, really well written. Then we're on to the last bookcase, and this is the last of the fiction books that I have. So we've got some Andy Weir, The Martian. That was an absolutely fantastic book. I'm sure you all know what that's about. I've got all of Sarah Winman's books here. I love Sarah Winman as a writer. If you haven't read anything by her yet, then I would definitely do that. Obviously Tin Man's got a lot of buzz lately. I believe it's just been published in the US too, so it's still getting a lot of buzz for that reason, but I absolutely love that. And of course we've got some of Markus Zusak's, well, the two Markus Zusak books. Obviously I love The Book Thief, I'm sure a lot of people do. Haven't read I Am the Messenger. It's completely different, I believe, but must get around to doing that. And then I've just got like a few candles and bits and pieces that I use for my Instagram pictures, and that I've got kind of keeping in reserve for when autumn and winter comes around, basically. So there's that. Then basically I've got a couple of shelves where I just keep stuff, and I'll explain kind of why. So I've given away what my next TBR is for my 5-star predictions. I've keeping a little pile of them here just to remind me basically to read them. This is a pile of library books that I've currently got out, so hiding them from you because obviously I'll do a what I've currently got out from the library video probably in a few weeks time. So yeah, there's those. And then these ones here are my September book haul basically. So there's a little pile of them there, ones that I was sent from one of my subscribers very kindly, so again hiding those from you, so they're a surprise for my September book haul. And then same with this shelf here, these books here are all of the books that I hauled in August. I didn't show you this little pile here. On the top is The Magician's Guild by Trudy Canavan, because these are books that my husband bought that I'm not putting on my TBR. So yeah, you'll have probably seen my August book haul by now. I basically keep them here until I've hauled them and put the video up on my channel, and then I basically scan them into Goodreads and put them on my normal shelves. And I haven't got around to doing that since I put my August book haul up on Friday last week. So yeah, they're still currently sitting here. Then this is the start of my non-fiction shelves. So a few things that we've got up here. We've got Lion by Saru Brearley. This is originally published as A Long Way Home. It's a memoir about a man who, when he was a boy, he got on a train and then basically fell asleep and lost his way, and he couldn't get back to his family, didn't know where he was from or anything like that, and then as an adult he's trying to basically find his way back again. Absolutely fantastic. I have watched the film, but I watched it with my students, and so I haven't watched it on my own, and I think I need to go back and watch it on my own because I will get a lot more out of it. But that was absolutely fantastic. I've got a few of Bill Bryson's books here. I do want to get a few more. I absolutely love his writing, very witty, very informative too. Love his travel writing, and his book on Shakespeare was equally as good. Few newer things here that I haven't read, so really want to get around to reading The Line Becomes a River. We've got Hillary Clinton's What Happened, Juno Dawson's The Gender Games. Mentioned this recently on my channel. This is Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls, a collection of very short sort of snippets about different women throughout history. Absolutely fantastic, really enjoyed it. I want to get the second book. What else have we got on here? A couple of Yuval Noah Harari books that I haven't read yet. This one here is a book that I got sort of for school, but also for me. It's called The Elements of Eloquence by Mark Forsyth. So he talks about different things that people do in order to speak well, and sort of get across their argument really well too. So yeah, it's a really well published book as well. I love it. Haven't read it yet though, obviously. We have my second shelf of non-fiction. So a few that I've read here that I've loved. We've got Paul Kalanithe's When Breath Becomes Air. This is about is it a brain surgeon? Can't remember what he is. He's basically a doctor, and he gets cancer, and so half of the book is about sort of him growing up and then becoming a doctor, and then the other half is his experience of cancer, and ultimately he dies. That's not a spoiler, but it's just an absolutely fantastic book, really eye-opening. Loved it, and that sort of sparked my interest in medical non-fiction. And then this is one of my favourites from last year. This is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay. This is about Adam Kay's experience of being a doctor in the NHS in the UK, and it's both absolutely hilarious and heartbreaking, so would definitely recommend that one. We've got a few other bits and pieces. I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. This is one that's quite popular on BookTube at the moment. My husband read it a couple of weeks ago and he said it was absolutely fantastic, so he read it I think in about a day and a half. It was so compulsive. This one here I've just recently got back my copy of from my mum's house. This is Julie Myerson's Home. This is about basically she started to think about the history of houses. So basically she researched all of the different owners of the house that she lived, the current house that she was living in when she wrote this book, and just about their different lives down the years basically. And she came into my university and did a talk on the book, and this is actually signed by her as well, so I got to meet her, and it's fascinating listening to her talk about it. I've read about half of it, but I didn't get around to reading the other half because obviously I had lots of other reading to do for university, so I'm really glad I got that back because that's a lovely copy of it, lovely hardback copy that's signed, and I'll eventually get around to finishing that off. Another favourite on this shelf is In Order to Live by Yeonmi Park. This is about Park's experience of escaping from North Korea. It's not just about that though, it's also about how when she crosses the border into China, I believe, she gets caught up in some dangerous things, and yeah, so it's really, really eye-opening in terms of like learning about North Korea and what life is like over there, because obviously it's quite shut off from the rest of the world, so I'd definitely recommend that one. And then this is the last shelf, so we've got a few more non-fiction books here. My absolute favourite out of all of them is Wild by Cheryl Strayed. You know, again, if people ask me what my favourite books are, this would definitely be on the list. I'm actually rereading this at the moment. I'm listening to it on audio and really, really enjoying it, picking up on lots of details that I'd obviously forgotten about, as you do. So yeah, love that one. And I've obviously recently, hold on a second, there we go, read Educated by Tara Westover. Absolutely fantastic book, really, really loved it, would definitely recommend that one. Eye-opening, dark at times, just absolutely fantastic. And that, guys, is my bookshelf tour complete. So yeah, as always, please leave me any questions or comments down below. I love chatting to you guys. And that's it. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.